And welcome back. We're about to do this. As I told you before, I'm joined with some lovely guests today that we're going to dive into that great topic of divorce and remarriage. So without further ado, please welcome to Let's Talk About It, Todd and Lena Anthony. All right. So, first of all, thank y'all for being here.
Thank you for having us, brother.
You know, this topic is not a particular easy one, but I'm glad that you guys have been willing to share a little bit. But before we get into it, for the people that might know your faces or don't know your faces, tell them a little bit about yourself. Where do they know you from? How do they know you? Or tell them just a little bit about who you are.
Ladies first.
Well, hi. Once again, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be on this platform. I am the youth pastor here at this amazing church, Revelation Church. I am a mother, a wife, an actress. I am a woman of purpose. I have many different businesses. I'm an entrepreneur. I have my ministry, which is just women walking in purpose. So I just empower women to walk boldly in their authentic purpose. And I have Mom Fit, which is postpartum, pregnancy, and beyond. So I empower women to be physically fit, spiritually, mentally, and physically. And we have our marriage ministry, Together for Purpose. We do a lot.
Yeah, you do a lot.
I have a clothing line, Lena Anthony collection. Yeah.
That ain't we, that's you.
We have a lot, though. We have a podcast, Did It On Purpose podcast, and yeah.
You named two things that we do. Listen, I don't do that much.
What do you do?
I'm an artist. That's how I kind of sum it up. I act, I write, produce, I empower, and I'm also the other half of the youth pastoring of the youth ministry here at Revelation Church. Yeah, man, I'm a Renaissance guy.
You are.
Okay.
No, he definitely is. There's a thing with Todd that everybody who knows him knows that he knows a lot and how to do a lot. So he's definitely a Renaissance. So tell me this, before we get into this part, how did y'all meet? Just give me up to the point where y'all met, because then we want to get into the before. But how did y'all
not
meet?
the dating, but meeting.
Right.
Okay. Do you want to tell this? Maybe I should, because
Yeah, our story is always.
it's always conflicting.
Uh-huh.
It's not conflicting.
Uh-huh.
It's that hers is a lot longer in detail.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how much time we have.
Right.
Listen, women we like to give details.
You like to give
okay?
details.
But you
Okay.
can tell the story.
Here's where we agree now. Finally, we did meet at a party through a mutual friend.
Where is this party at?
This was a birthday party here in L.A.,
Here in LA, but you both are from.
Philadelphia.
Both from Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
Both relocated to LA to pursue our career as an actress.
Mm-hmm.
And
No, you're an
as
actress.
an
I'm an
actress.
actor.
Let me finish, babe. Let me finish. Relocated from Philadelphia as an actor. And so we met at a Hollywood birthday party from one of our friends invited us, and I did not know him. I did not know anything about Todd Anthony from Philly, being an actor. And from there, we exchanged numbers, and I invited him to an acting class that I was producing at the time for.
See, this is where we conflict. Go ahead.
Okay.
We didn't exchange numbers there.
We did.
Okay.
We did. We exchanged numbers at Phaedra's when we met at a mixer. We met at a mixer, like an acting mixer. And that's when she invited me to a class.
And then
And
so
then
the
we
numbers was
exchanged
exchanged
numbers.
before the class.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So
But
that's
not
a
at
little,
the birthday party.
That's a little small. So the one thing I want to clarify
I'm
is
done.
y'all both from Philly,
Yes.
but didn't know each other.
Mm-hmm.
So when y'all met out here, did that even serve as a connector? Like, oh, we both from Philly. Did it drive you closer to each other, or was it just one of those coincidences or common things you just thought was cool?
No, anytime you meet someone from your hometown, it's like, oh, that's Philly, that's the homeboy. So that's how the connection started.
The
with us.
homeboy.
Yeah, the homeboy.
That's the homeboy.
That was the homeboy.
What about you?
No, yeah, it was the same. I mean, because we knew once we found out that each other were from Philly, it was like, oh, cool. That's another person from Philly. Like, that's kind of how you are when you meet another Philadelphian.
Yeah.
And so going forward, it was no interaction. It was just, we would just see each other at different kind of Philly meetups.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was it. Like, I was still doing my it wasn't until we got into the acting class that we actually started getting to know each other. But prior to that, it was just very preliminary.
I like the origin because, you guys are married now. How long you been married?
5 years. It'll be 6 this October.
October.
And you guys dated, how long would you say?
Ooh,
3.
We dated 3 years.
Dated 3 years. And then now it's 6 years married.
So we're almost 6 years married, together for 9 years.
Okay. So the reason why I think this is important is because we hear this part, we hear how they met, but what most people don't know is that both of these people, these beautiful people, were married before.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And this is what we're talking about here today. We're talking about divorce and remarriage. And so if y'all are ready, let's just jump right in.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it, right?
I got my swim cap on.
So, woo! Where do we go? Where do we go? Let's just start right off the top. How long were you married, Todd?
I was married 2 years. I was married 4 total. Out of those 4, separated 2.
Because by 2 years in,
we were already like, this is not it.
Okay, I want to come back to that. How long were you married for?
So I was only married for 60 days. We were together for 9 years. We got married and divorced within 6 months of us being married.
Okay.
So I was only married for 60 days.
Okay. Would you say you were?
It's like a celebrity marriage.
I know it does sound like. So the thing I want to come back to is in terms of the 2 years in, just like you, the 60 days. And I'll let you both flow, but what was it that made you go, no, this isn't it? At that time, compared to even hindsight, like when you even think about it, you could talk from that place. You can even talk, if you have even better words after time has passed, like what was it that really helped you in that time see like this is not what it's supposed to be?
I think for me at the time, I was not extremely, but I was young in some people's eyes to be married. I was only 24.
Oh, wow. That qualifies.
Yeah.
I mean, some do it, but.
Right. But, it's you kind of discovering yourself. And I think at that, when I finally got to that 2-year mark, we were butting heads so much in regards to just the household that I realized, one, I didn't know what it took to be a husband. And I believe now that she didn't realize what it was a wife was supposed to be. And we just didn't get it. So when you don't get it, you're trying to figure it out. And in that figuring out stage, you're constantly like just going against each other. And for me, I think I always tell my wife now, looking back, I didn't try hard enough. I probably could have tried harder and said, let's try a little harder. But I think the damage was kind of already done, and me being young, it was just like, I just don't see myself doing this for the rest of life.
Yeah.
So it was really me who actually decided to, like, nah, this is not it.
So Lena, then the question for you is, just to kind of get some context, you say you was only married 60 days. How long were you with the person?
So I was with my son's father for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, we kind of got married to try to force things to work.
Mm-hmm.
And we realized that a marriage, if it didn't work then, the marriage is not going to make it work. And so we decided to just call it quits. But it was literally, it was a fight. And the whole, like throughout the whole relationship was a fight. So my ex-husband came to LA with me.
Not a physical fight. I just wanted to clear it up.
That's the whole point of me saying forced spade.
I'm sorry. No, I just in case, because people watching might assume.
This is
what marriage is.
I know. I wanted to make sure people ain't think you was getting hit on.
No. But it was a constant wrestle of trying to be together, trying to make a relationship work. And we realized that it just wasn't, it couldn't work. There was no, we just had two different perspectives in life, period.
So on that note, how then could you be with someone that long? Because I hear cases, you'd be so shocked of cases where they can date until the end,
Mm-hmm.
until the sun comes up, goes back down. But when they commit in a marriage-like way, all of a sudden it's like, oh no, what is it? What do you think that is, and how is it that you can be with someone that long and then you see that you marry them and you see it doesn't work?
Yeah, so here's what I'll tell you. I met my ex-husband when I was 17 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I had my son when I was 21.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up never in a stable mother and father household. And so I was trying to force that to happen.
I see.
So when I had my son, I wanted to give him what I never had. And so did his father. So we stayed together trying to make it work for the sake of our son. And even though the relationship was rocky for 10 years, we, for some reason, decided, okay, maybe if we get married, things would change. Things didn't change. We both realized that we cannot force it to happen. We're two different people.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when I say we had two different perspectives on what a relationship looks like and what a marriage looks like. So that's why it was me who initiated, we need to get divorced. And so he even still was trying to force it to make it work even after we both realized it just can't work. We're not even compatible. We're two different people. We have two different purposes in life, and the only thing that we were blessed to get out of it was our child.
Oh, you're saying.
I think people, not to cut you off, but I think people, what happens is you put this unnecessary umbrella on your relationship when you get married.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, talk about it.
Marriage is the extension of dating.
Yeah.
You know, you're dating the person for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, are you learning different things about each other? And you're learning, if you come under one roof, you're learning, okay, this is the culture we want for our household. Those things you work through, but there's not a new thing that drops down like, oh, we're married and then there's all this weight.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah.
Just continue to do the same things you were doing when you were dating because you were just free.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's what
deep.
marriage. That's what
deep.
marriage has
That's
to be.
deep.
It has to be the freedom to still be myself, to still be yourself, so that we can be completely free and honest and open, like friends should be.
Yeah.
You have to keep that friendship aspect of a marriage to keep the freedom aspect, so there's no added pressure on. We're married now, and then we got bills, and then, that's what oftentimes breaks a marriage, because you place the unnecessary weight on yourselves.
Yeah, and that's true, but at the same time, remember, I was 17 when I met my ex-husband. So I went through 17, 20, not really having that wisdom. You know what I mean? We didn't have mentors. We didn't even have structure. It was just like me as a child, not even having a father. I never had a father to teach me the type of man I should be looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to the first person that loved me.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with that and how he treated me, and not really, you know, what's your purpose in life? What's my purpose in life? It wasn't until I got divorced until I got direction, you know, to be honest with you. So that's wisdom that one will have, but it takes some maturity to get that. And I think I matured during the journey. He met me as I was a child.
Yeah, no,
You know?
it makes a lot of sense.
And that response wasn't.
No,
about
I know, I know,
relationship.
I
It was
know,
just
I
for
know.
people in general.
No, I want to touch on what you said though, even though it's for people in general, because it was a great point.
Mm-hmm.
There's an added pressure
Mm-hmm.
you put on yourself,
Yeah.
and the truth is, not a lot of people have seen the example of a marriage that they would want to emulate.
Mm-hmm.
We got the TV marriages, we got the ones that you see that look polished, but you don't know what's happening at home.
Right.
You got various types of marriages, and to your point, you said you add that extra pressure, but it's an extension of dating. You know, one of the things that, because you want to be free, one of the things I remember I told my wife in the very beginning, I said, listen, I don't know anything about being a husband.
Mm-hmm.
All I know is I'm going to love you. I'm going to every day choose you, support you. Like I'm the friend stuff, like the relationship stuff. That's all I know. Now, if we look back and that means that I was a pretty good husband, then amen.
Yeah.
But I can't take on a role, or let me say it like this, a title, and create it to be something that we really don't have any real instruction or manual to be. It is a responsibility that we become a husband by saying that we're ready for purpose, we're ready for a wife, we're ready for things. But it's like a husband, it doesn't treat his woman any different because he's a husband.
Right.
A husband knows, and I say this, a husband does have to have a different mentality.
Yeah.
Because I remember even when I was dating at one point in time, and you know, I still knew you guys who were married guys, and I went through something with and I was like, man, I'm ready to quit this thing, you know.
Right.
And I called one of the brothers, and I realized his mentality as a husband was like more of like patience, long suffering, and stuff like that, because he was married and been married for years. I was still dating and knew that wasn't my mentality. My mentality is you kind of argue to an end, you break up, you know.
Yep.
So in marriage, it's important for people to know that isn't that far off from the operation system, but you have to double down in how it now looks as a marriage, because to your point, it is an extension of where you come from. So I want to ask you.
And this, to add on to what you were saying before you go to the next question, it's an extension because you become a husband and you're becoming a husband and becoming a wife in the dating process.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying you don't become this husband and a wife when you say I do.
Yeah.
You practice before you get there.
Yeah.
It's just like showing up for a game.
Just like
I practice like I'm in the game. So if I want to be a husband, I'm going to start practicing being a husband. So now when I have that mindset, I'm able to actually identify what a wife is.
Yeah.
So I can just hear this. I'm going off script a little bit, because I can just hear someone right now saying, well, I don't want to be stuck in a practice mode and not get to the thing, because you know there's the wifeys, but they're not wives. They're the ones who are taken care of, or vice versa. I guess there's no term for the guys that are being husband material, I guess. But what would you say then to those young ladies who feel that they're putting, because you know they say you shouldn't treat every man like your husband.
Absolutely.
Like, so what would you say to those that feel like they with somebody and they're putting forth all these best efforts, but they're not being recognized? That's just a question for you, since you just touched on that point.
You can't go through life worrying about, is this the right one? Is this not the right one? Every relationship, every encounter you have with a person is sharpening you to be a better individual.
That's
so
good.
even when it comes to dating, let's say you've dated 3 guys and it didn't work. There was something that you needed to learn from dating those 3 guys, so that when your husband does find you, you actually have the tools that are going to benefit the marriage that you're going to have with that person.
That's good.
So it's everything truly does work out for your good.
Yeah.
So even what seems like a failed relationship is not. It's just a learned curve that you use for your actual marriage.
Come on, Pastor Ty.
Yeah, no, the best thing you can do, honestly, is not focus on, like he said, you're practicing for a relationship, but you got to practice for you. You got to figure out who you are.
That's good.
You have to be so committed to cultivating who you are as a child of God, because who you are as a child of God is going to show up in you being a wife. It's going to show up in you being a husband. But if you don't know who you are, how can you be somebody's wife? And that is what I had to learn.
So with that, I want to ask you, I know you'd already alluded to, you said that you feel like in the previous marriage, you see some things you could have done differently. You're saying you were young. How were you able to identify that it was time for the split? Like, what was it? Because I know again, in relationship, just a general non-married relationships, it's like, I guess we kind of want things to be over when we want it to be over, but you'd already committed in a marriage. So was it even harder to even come to that conclusion? Like, what was that process like for you?
For me, to be honest with you, there was a process of, first of all, I was lost. I was so confused on my identity. I had no type of self-value as a woman, period. And so God took me through a pruning process where I had to let go of everything, people, places, and things. I had to literally go into isolation and truly get back to, okay, who am I? I had to build my relationship with Christ in order to know who I was. And during that process, I saw us just going, like literally me going like this and the relationship going like this. And as I tried to get us to a place of coming together, my ex-husband was not in that mindset that I was in. And so we came to an agreement, that it was just time to separate, because that's what we thought we was going to do. We was going to separate. So we separated. And in that separation time, I literally just sank in my relationship with God. I did everything I needed to do to figure out who I was, build up my value. And so during that time, God God spoke to me, and He said it was time for me to go. And my ex-husband, like I said, he fought me on that, but when it's time.
Yeah.
Like when it's time. And I felt like my life was at a standstill. And it just took for me to just close that door for me and my son to come out of this place of one, I was in depression. I was in a place of literally following my mother's footsteps, and I saw that. I saw, if I don't get out of this situation, I'm going to be repeating the same cycles of my family, of my generation. And so
which would be
poverty, all kinds of stuff, all kinds of stuff. It was, I need to break this generational curse so that my son never would have to experience the things that I saw growing up, never have to experience even the things that his father's side, dealt with. And so I did. I made that hard decision. And making that hard decision, you go through guilt, you go through condemnation, you go through, this is, you start blaming yourself. You start, just living and start doubting every decision you've ever made. But I allow God to take me through a pruning process, a shedding process, where I realized that my divorce was direction for my life, because I gained so much clarity in my career, clarity in my mentality, and I was able to just to doors started opening. blessings started happening. Like I was in a place of stagnancy, being in my marriage, being in that relationship for 10 years.
So you had stated that you felt lost in the beginning. So Todd, for you, what did your divorce feel like?
The initial, it was tricky. I would say the separation was very much confusing, because here's what I've been able to analyze now, looking back.
Talk to us.
Once you lose your focus on God in the marriage, it's the wrap. It's the end of it. For me, at that time, allowing the small battles to take control as opposed to me as a husband taking control and focusing on, all right, God, how do you want me to lead this? It allowed all of the communication breakdown.
That's
it allowed
good.
the confusion to come in between us, and then it drove the wedge.
Yeah.
And it was at that point, I didn't want to turn back. She tried to turn back, but I was already gone. And that led to me, even in the separation time, dealing with another woman. Like, it led to all type of things that I never would have imagined. And then after the actual divorce, the paperwork, I was able to realize then, like, I dropped the ball. You know, we both dropped the ball, but I ultimately dropped the ball, because when God looks at marriage, he doesn't look directly at the wife. He looks at the covering first.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, well, if you're doing your job, then she should be doing her job. Now, if she's not doing her job while you're doing your job, that's a whole different thing. Then he can deal with her. But I wasn't doing my job. And so the separation was confusing, but the actual divorce gave me clarity. So that's why it was actually easier for me to be remarried, because I then understood,
Yep.
I just got to be on my job
Yeah.
when I decide to do it again.
That's good.
So I want to ask you both, what was your view of marriage at the time? Like, before you got married the first time? Like, I know, we all kind of have a fantasy, we have a thought, we have a Disney image, we have, if you're from a religious family, you get the finger wagged at you, you better. What was your view on marriage? And then we see how that first one ended, but I just want to know, going into that, because afterwards, I want to know, did it feel like you failed at anything?
I'll go first because you got some good examples. But my view, it's funny because as a kid, I've always actually, my mom will tell you, I've always, I don't know where it came from, but I always wanted to be married. I always wanted a family. As a child, I used to say these things. I don't know where that came from, but growing up, like my father with my stepmother, or my mom, I call her my mom, they've had the longest lasting relationship successfully of marriage that I've ever seen. But other than that, like my father and my biological mother weren't together. They were separated when I was like 1. My mother and my stepfather, who I primarily lived with during my adolescent years, the relationship was just, it was tumultuous all the time. So that wasn't a great example. But I'll get to that part. And then I would see other marriages like here and there, not like spending a lot of time around them, but like my grandparents. I didn't live with them, but I saw it from afar. It wasn't perfect, but it was all right. But I never had that one example of like, man, this is how you should be. I didn't have that till later, till like my 20s. So you don't realize the effect that has on you. But I will say, one thing I've always been able to do is to understand that even though something is not the greatest example, you got to learn to pull from that.
Yeah.
Pull the nuggets out of it. I've
That's
always
true.
been able to do that.
That's true.
So even the negative nuggets and say, I don't want that.
Yeah.
So that's what I was able to do with my mom and my stepfather's relationship. When it was like, okay, I've never talked to my wife like that. I would never treat my wife like that. So it actually did help me. You know what I mean? So you can't always say that the greatest example will set you up for success, because you don't know till you get in it. But it can be the negative ones that can set you up for success too, because you'll know what not to do.
Absolutely.
So that's been my experience with marriages and relationships. Like, you know, I didn't have a ton of examples of great relationships. I had examples of like, you can make it work, you know, and then some like, no. But I just always tried to borrow from different relationships and say, okay, this would make a pretty good foundation.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of it my husband said, but to be honest with you, I remember as a child just painting this, or just always seeing this Cinderella story, like you said, this husband and these children. I've always seen myself being married with my husband with 4 kids. You know, we got 3, working on another one, right?
God's gonna give it to you. God's gonna give it to you.
But I've always seen this family, and you know, and this white picket fence, and this beautiful family, this fairy tale, right? And when I got married, or even when I was with my son's father, during that whole time, God will always remind me, this is not what you saw as a kid. Like literally, every year I would get a reminder, a flashback. This is not what you saw as a kid. This is not what I have for you. And it wasn't until when the divorce was finally final, because it was a long 6-month process, but when it was finally final.
6 months?
6 months.
Mine was 2 years.
Mine took 6. Listen, I was in it for 10 years. But I promise you, when it was final, God reminded me of that vision again. And he said to me, in order for me to give you what I showed you as a kid, I have to work on you. And I started working on myself. Okay, God, I know what you created me for. You created me to be a wife. You created me to be a mother. I'm nurturing. I know all the qualities that you put inside of me. Teach me how to be that person. And I'm telling you, like, I went through I always tell people, I went through spiritual boot camp because God really, like, it was painful. And like, you know, growing up, I never had, like, even though my mother was married, I seen her married. Her husband was in jail, in and out of jail. You know, my aunts, I've seen them married for over 40 years, but to me, it was like a roommate situation. The only marriage that I did see was when I was growing up in Philly. My grandmother and my grandfather, they were married, and they did a lot of spending time with us, and they helped us, you know, get through life and get through school and in church and all those different things. But they introduced me to a pastor who helped raise me from the time I was 6 to even now. Like, he's still a part of our life. And I used to call him my spiritual father then, but he's my godfather. And I seen the marriage that he had with his wife, and it was how he would treat his wife, the patience he had, the kindness, the communication, just how he would love on her. And even though God will always remind me, I'm going to give you greater, you know, but pull from that grace. And I just, you know, as time went by, I feel like those experiences, all the experiences I went through, all of it was to shape me. And I'm still not, you know, we all are becoming, but I do believe that those experiences were all for a reason. So,
absolutely.
You know, I don't, remarriage for me, marriage was direction, and remarriage was revelation to where God is ultimately taking me as being the wife that he called me to be, that he showed me as a very young child.
No, I like that. You first of all, if you're watching, drop some fire emojis, some heart emojis, because I'm gonna tell you right now, y'all might be making some people mad also, because listen, let's talk about it is not for the saints. Amen. Right. We're not here to appease any religious beliefs. You know, this show has always been for one purpose and one person only. It is setting the captives free.
Yeah.
And if you have a way in which you approach things only, and there's no other room for a different perspective or another room for a different way in which you do things, you'll find yourself stuck, and you'll find yourself amongst those who then judge. And we're this is the no judgment free zone. Not because everything is condoned. No, it's the no judgment free zone. It's because that's what Christ died for. He died for all judgment. And he took all judgment. So that we can be free. So I want to I'm still holding on to some of these deep questions, but
don't hold on. Let's talk.
I want to ask you out right off the top then. Where's the camera? Dun, dun, dun. Is marriage forever? Is marriage forever?
I personally feel that marriage is for purpose.
Talk about it.
And I say that because if you're in a marriage and it's no purpose involved in that marriage, then it will not last. But if the marriage that you're in and there's purpose behind it, it's for purpose, you're in purpose, God ordained the marriage, then you have a mission for Christ. You have a mission. You and your partner, you have a mission. And I believe that God has ordained this marriage, and I do believe this marriage is for purpose. So yes, marriage, to me, when it's for purpose, it is forever.
Todd, what would you say to that?
You better make me look good. Sorry.
Here's the thing when you talk about time and you talk about forever.
Preach, Pastor.
The thing about purpose is once you fulfill it, it's done. So therefore, it no longer lives once you fulfilled that purpose. So the reason why, and that's a great answer, don't get me wrong, but I believe marriage is for however long you decide for it to be. Because the moment that you forget about why you got married,
True.
why you decided to choose this woman, and the moment that you forget about the vision that you have for your family, your marriage ultimately will not last. So your marriage will go as long as you go. As long as you have vision, as long as you have insight and foresight, your marriage will continue to go. But at some point, once I die, that marriage is gone.
You're right.
Once, I
tell people all the time, and God showed me this. You don't do anything without agreement. All relationships are agreement. Even marriage, it's the ultimate agreement. It's the word changes to covenant, but what is a covenant? A covenant is an agreement.
It's an agreement.
So you can have an agreement to date. You can have an agreement to just see each other only. You can have an agreement to be boyfriend and girlfriend. You can have an agreement to be fiancés. But notice you can have agreement in all those areas and still not have agreement to be married. So when you have an agreement to finally be married, you have to have an agreement to finally stay married. Because what we learn is all divorce is the agreement to no longer be married.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So God has made relationships very simple in its understanding is what level of agreement do you have based on what is in front of you? And so I told my wife, I'm like, it's just an everyday thing. Like
it is.
Every day I'm choosing you every day. Every day. I can't even begin to think of, it sounds great when you see it in a movie and growing old together and dying, like all this stuff sounds amazing. But every day, I have to live through every day in order to see that, right?
Absolutely.
So why would I act like I'm saving everything until old and gray.
Right.
No, I have to add and be who I need to be every day in order to get to the old and gray.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we won't see those days.
Right.
So it's all about that agreement. I'm glad you said that is however long you choose to be, because it makes it very, very plain, is when you get the whimsical stuff out of the picture and you understand when people say, because I love when people say this, they say marriage is work. It's not to take away the feels.
Right.
It's not to say it's pointless. It's because, no, I'll give you an example. In dating, and let's say you do it correctly. You don't live together, as they say in the Bible, you ain't shacking up, right? In dating, you live in separate places. You see each other once or twice a week. You drop each other off back in your respective houses. And then you kind of build up the intimacy through conversation, through hanging out. But you make sure that the date nights are important again, right? But think about what dating is. Dating is a buildup of, or an excitement of seeing each other and spending time together. But you're not doing it every day.
Right.
So when people say marriage is work, it's because that facade of, ooh, I get to, and we get to, it's gone, because now you see somebody and they good, they bad, and they ugly.
Yep.
You see them with the crust around their mouth and the corners of their eyes. You see them when they're not feeling well. You see all these different things, and you still have to decide that it's beyond the visual stimulation and even what you heard over the phone. You get what I'm saying? So that's why it's important for even marriages that you have date nights. It is to recreate, to what Pastor Todd was saying, that extension of dating. The reason why date nights are important is because, and I feel like this is kind of just taking a little slight redirect, but the reason why date nights are important in a marriage and how you can still keep it like it was before is you're seeing each other every day can take away some of that thrill, right? But you have to build up to the date nights. You have to talk every day. But when you say at the top of the week, hey, baby, look, on Friday, we're going to XYZ. We're going to go. We're going to have a good time. Make sure your week is a great week.
Yeah. So that the date.
So that the date is fun, right? Even though you're married, it was easier when you were dating because you didn't see each other every day. You didn't have to talk every day. You let 2-3 days go by, and you're like, oh, baby, thinking about you, and that was enough.
Right.
But in marriage, it becomes this extra toll of having to check in all the time, to communicate all the time, and then it's like that other person is being on the hook for every little thing that you want them, and you can take yourself out of just the excitement of it. So I just wanted to go and touch on that for a second.
Before you move on, I just want to say this real quick. So I remember Papa just saying, and this was not too long ago, where he talked about purpose. And if you know me, you know I'm like the ambassador of purpose. I love just helping people discover their purpose. But Papa said,
I think you say purpose every day. I believe
I probably do. Papa said it was so simple. He said, purpose is a journey. It's always a rediscovery. When you think you have arrived, God is going to show you a new purpose for your life. And so the same thing with marriage. The reason why I say marriage is for purpose is because you can, like the first marriage, I was in that marriage for a purpose to birth my son who rescued me, right? And so this marriage, God has us on kingdom assignments. And so when God say this purpose is fulfilled, then he's going to go. He's going to go to heaven. I may go to heaven. That's the end of that assignment. That's the end of that purpose, So I just want people to truly understand that, that agreement is aligned with that purpose that God has given you.
I like that. I want to ask you this before we get more so into your own your now union, man. What made you give marriage a second chance after that first experience? Because some people want it done. Some people just go, oh, I'm cool. I can just date. Companionship is fine. But for you, it was different. What was the difference?
For me, it was, now I know who I am. I know why God created me. I know that I am a helpmate. And I know that in order for me to fulfill the assignments that's attached to my life, I have to be married.
I
And
see.
so when God sent my husband, I was well aware. And I mean, it took me some time, but I was well aware. I was created for this.
Yeah.
You're well deserving of a wife. It doesn't matter how many times you were married and it did not work. God said you're well deserving of a wife. You're worthy to be a wife. I've created you to be a wife. So don't, allow your mistakes or the journey you've been through to tarnish what God has placed inside of you.
Yeah, for me, I've always wanted a family. I wanted children. And last time I checked, a husband needs a wife in order to create
More
that.
than that.
So,
Make that happen.
and for where I wanted to go,
Yep.
you need somebody to help you get there. So I wanted the knowing of I can count on this person to say, hey, I'll help you with whatever it is that you're trying to do, and in that someone that's gonna walk with me through hell or high water. You know what I mean? Like I've always said, when I found my wife or my next wife, I just need you to respect me, to support me. That's at the top of the food chain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything else is just like cool, you
Yeah.
know. But if you can support me and respect me for who it is that I am, this thing can last a long
Yeah.
time as far as we want it to, and go as far as we want it to go.
So what would you say, or what would you recommend to someone who wants to remarry? Like, let's assume they're divorced.
Mhm.
What would you say?
Do it. I mean, listen, there's no one. This is for. I'm gonna speak to those who sometimes condemn themselves or feel condemned by others, because the church has had a history of doing that when it comes to remarrying. No one knows what that circumstance was like. No one knows
Yeah.
what that marriage was like. So only you know. But you only get one chance at this particular life.
That's true.
Why not put out all the marbles, enjoy it?
Yeah.
If you get remarried and it's successful, most of the time people are going to forget that you were
Yeah.
even divorced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, why be concerned with what people think, with even your own guilt? Lose it.
Yeah.
Go live life. Like
Yeah.
that's how God can do things through you, when you place yourself in positions that he can use you in.
Yeah.
He may want to use your story to speak to other people like us
Yeah.
that have been divorced and remarried and
Yeah.
have a successful marriage, and people come to us for advice.
Yeah.
But we had to go through that. All
That-
of our
that's-
experiences are for
That's
that.
good that you said that. And the reason why I have these guys on today is because when I met them, I didn't know anything about any previous relationships. So there was no preconceived notion, there was no judgment. I got to understand them individually as people. I got to see how much she loved her husband and he loved his wife. And then in seeing all that they're doing in the church, all the lives that they're touching, even down to the youth, it's like people really can have their own, be in their own way in their view of what this should look like. And I wanted to have these guys on to show you an example of, no, get out of your head about these things. This is living, breathing example of what happens and why it's not what you think. But I know you wanted to answer on that question
Yeah,
also.
because not all the time that we even be in our own way, but we allow the ways of the world. We put the pressure of the world, like you got to break the bondage of religion. Religion says that, you should not divorce. Who said? Why? God said God doesn't want you to be in an abusive relationship. He doesn't want you to be suffering and pain. So a sin is sin. There's no equal. Like you shoot somebody today or tomorrow. I'm not saying do this, but I'm just saying, divorce it amounts to the same thing. And at the end of the day, God gives us grace. So the grace, he's going to give you even deeper grace so that you can go into your next marriage with a clear conscience, you know, because I went through that cycle of the pressures of the world. You know, that man was with you since you were 17 years old when you had nobody, and I put that on me so heavy that I literally found myself falling into depression. Like I said, I was lost, I was confused. And the moment I wash myself with the word of God, I cleanse myself with the word of God, I block the enemy's his voice and allow God to speak to me, to purify me. I was totally transformed, totally like freed from people opinions, from expectations of what they would think. Who cares? Like my husband said, live your life, because the only voice you should be listening to is the voice of God, because he has true direction and revelation on where you should go. Remarry, remarry, remarry. There is someone out there just for you.
Amen.
Yeah, and last thing, you know, it's what I don't want people to take away from what we're saying is giving you the license to just, when it gets hard, all right, cool, I'm gone.
Yeah, we're
remarried.
definitely not
That's
saying
not
that.
what we're saying. What we are saying is that sometimes life happens,
Yeah.
and some things aren't successful for whatever the reasons may be. But God came to make us free, literally be walking beings of what freedom looks like.
Yeah.
And you have to be so free in knowing who God's created you to be that once you have given your all and actually tried and it was unsuccessful, then it's just unsuccessful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Move on. And if you have the desire to be married again, take away what you learn from that, apply it to the next one, and try even harder.
Yeah.
That's
You just
good.
keep showing up.
Yeah.
So I want to ask also then on that point, what is something that you're both thankful for from this marriage experience?
Want me to go first, or you want to go first?
I'm thankful for my husband. He's my greatest teacher. I mean, you guys see it. He's always correcting me.
I corrected you probably
No,
one or
but
two
it's
times.
good. Like, it's good. The funny thing is, when we first met, I used to get really, like, defensive. I used to be like, can you not do that? But I understand that, you know, he's my mirror. He's only trying to make me better. And I represent him. He represents me. So I understand, like, Lena, let go of that pride. That's just ego. You know, so now I welcome it. I'm like, babe, what could I have done better? How can I say this better? Like, even little things, like, you know, this is so small, but like we post a lot on social media. We have a lot of content on social media, right? So I post a lot of family content on social media, and even down to captions like, babe, does this make sense? Should I word it
Come
this
on.
way? Like, you know, I truly believe that my husband is my greatest teacher, and I thank God for him. I thank God that he helped me to lower myself, to let go of that pride. Because the funny thing is, when we got married, the Holy Spirit wrote my vows. And in my vows, I think I said I will submit about 3 different times. And after the ceremony, one of my mentors came to me. If she's watching this, she would laugh. John Witherspoon's wife, Angela Witherspoon, she said, what's all this submissive stuff you talking about in your vows? And I promise you, I didn't even realize I spoke so much of that in my vows. And so God challenged me on that. And he's still challenging me on that. So I thank God for my husband for just helping me grow to be the best version I can be as a mother, as a wife, as a youth pastor, as a woman in general, you know? Yeah. So thank you.
I mean, she said.
Put it on thick, didn't she?
She said some stuff now. Right. I don't know what you want to do with it.
I mean, geez Louise.
Something you're thankful for in case you need to be reminded.
No, I'm thankful that my wife pushes me. And the same, she has a way of highlighting things that can be strengths. And at times when if you allow your ego to get in the way, you can kind of block it. But if you really sit and think, she's literally being what she's supposed to be, which is
Yeah.
a helpmate.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I really appreciate is that when you ask for a helper and they really decide to help, you can't be mad at that.
Yeah.
So like for me,
That's what they're there for.
that's what they're there for. And then I think it's just important. Like as she spoke, I think we're both doing our best to operate from where we are on the food chain, meaning, this is a mirror of our relationship with Christ, right? And it's for any husband or wife out there, let me say wife out there that feels like their husband is always trying to make them better or has their way of making them better.
Help somebody.
He's operating from where he was called to operate from, meaning he stepped into a role of a God-like role.
That's good.
To help the church, meaning his wife, to present herself, right, before the groom as a glorified bride.
Spotless.
That's good.
Spotless. And the only way we can do that is constant covering and correction in a loving way. And she's operating from a point of our relationship with Christ of, all right, Lord, I know you called me to be better. All right, Lord, I know I'm supposed to be doing this. All right, Lord, I know So we're constantly being molded and shaped and pruned as well. And that's a wife's position to say, all right, husband, now how do I look?
You know what you just said is so deep because the Bible says that's what Christ's mission is to present the church as the husband presents his bride back to him spotless. So that means that it is not the concern, nor should it be the concern of the church or the bride on whether they get dirty, on whether they are perfect in their ways. It is meant for the husband, and in all of our case, Christ, to wash us, because we talk about correction. What is washing if other than just correcting the blotches and the stains on a thing?
Right.
It's you're bringing it back to its form. That's all that it's always meant to be.
Yeah.
That's deep. That's deep. Listen, you know what? One reason why I love talking to Todd, because Todd gonna say something. Todd gonna say something's gonna make you kind of level up on some of your revelations. He make you want to, okay, I got something for you, buddy. That's why I love talking to Todd. Todd's deep. Listen, guys, I've enjoyed you. I know the time has already went whoop, but I wanted you guys to have an opportunity. Tell the people, you touched on it a little bit, but tell the people where they can find you, what's going on, what to look out for, et cetera, et cetera.
I'm going to go first because my wife has about 50 social media accounts. You can find me on all platforms under @_Todd Anthony. I got my website, which is www.toddanthony.com. And then together she'll present, obviously we have our podcast, Did It On Purpose podcast, which is on iTunes and Spotify and Amazon and YouTube. And then she has all the rest of the accounts.
She has the directory.
She has the directory.
I'm cracking up. Anyway, you can find me on all platforms, Lena Anthony _, but you can also follow our, we have a business called Platform for Purpose, and where we have empowerment panels for marriages, for single couples, all types of people. We have Women Walking in Purpose. So anyway, follow us on Platform for Purpose, the number 4. Also, you can go to our website, platformforpurpose.co, where you can find out everything we have. And we just started our mentorship program, which is under the under the platform. But again, it is on platformforpurpose.co. stop.
That's nine. That
Hey,
was
man.
9. I counted 9.
No, you
So
did
you
not.
didn't even announce all of them.
Because
That's
everything you
crazy.
need to know
But
about
no, I'm just
Lena
kidding.
and Todd, you will find it on platformforpurpose.co.
Where can they find you?
Lena Anthony, that was the first thing I said.
Okay, I
See?
just want to
Okay,
make sure
it
you
was-
got that
it was
plug
swimming
in
in
there.
the-
It was swimming in the rest of them.
All right, well, look, we thank God for y'all. Thank y'all so much. Give another hand clap for the Anthonys.